Hey everybody, this is your Vibe Mr. Stephanie Renee here with our latest edition, or should I say our debut edition of my new series called Blood at the Roots here on Soul Sanctuary Media. This is for all of you who I have spoken to or corresponded with over the last, I don't know, 7 years, who have been curious about what it means to DNA test and start researching your family tree, but really don't know the first place to start. And let's be honest, there are a lot of resources out here with people who want to tell you how to interpret your results and all those other things, but they don't give you a good step-by-step instruction on actually how to begin, on how to know what you're looking at and how to build from there. And so that's what this series is seeking to do. And we're going to take it in small, digestible chunks, not hours worth of video at one time. I'm going to try to keep it to 10 or 15 minutes each episode, and then allow you all to comment on the videos as they are posted, or to email, submit your questions, and we can take it from there. Cool? All right. So what makes me, I don't know, self-proclaimed, if you want to say that, expert? I do not say that I'm an expert. I'm just somebody who's been very diligently working at this over years, and I've learned a lot along the way. And I come from a family of educators, so I want to impart some of this knowledge in that way. And I'll share with you some of my inspiration, if you will, for getting started with this. And that will take us to my parents. So this is George and Wanda, my parents, and a wedding photo, as you can see. And they both, made family a priority in our household and in raising me, which I am deeply, deeply thankful for. But it turns out after I DNA tested, I found that there were a lot of things that I did not know. And so in this journey, I've been surprised by a lot of information, found out that as much as I do know, there's a lot more that I don't know. And I'm busy filling in the blanks, but I'm glad that I have a really good foundation on how to get that done. And that's part of what I want to share with you. And so today's episode, we are going to begin with 23andMe. And I need to say a disclaimer as we jump into this, that there's a lot of conversation about 23andMe, the kind of information that they make available, and how all this works. I do not want this series to be a sort of conversation around the ethics and the legalities of DNA testing and what that means. That can be for a different host in a different series. Here, I just want to give you the information, show you what they provide by using my own data, and then let you make a decision about whether this is for you, which service is best for you, and how this process works. I personally am very glad that I tested with 23andMe first, because 23andMe relies on much more of the science, because that's what they sell. That's what they provide. Ancestry, which we'll do in a different episode, is trying to hook you in, if you will, to make you research your family tree and use their website as a resource for that. 23andMe is not for those of you who want to build an extensive tree. They just don't have the resources to provide it. But if you want to know down to the chromosomal level, which I'll show you, about what kind of information they provide, and to find out what ethnicities and all that make up who you are, and then tie that to people that you are related to, then 23andMe is the site for that. 23andMe also provides a much more extensive look into the different chromosomal or genetic things that lead to certain health characteristics. And that is why, if you have not seen Ancestry, which has started a series called Ancestry Health, they're discontinuing it in September. So they realized that's not the playing field where they excel, and they decided to get out of the game, because 23andMe does a much better job of that. So we're going to go to my tab where I can show you hands-on, if you will, what it looks like. And then again, as you have questions, put it in the comment section or send me an email and I can try to answer some more specifics for you. But we're going to use my information as the sort of test case for all of this. So I'm going to share a screen with you now and show you very specifically what Ancestry looks like on 23andMe. All right. So as you see, here's me. And you see the overview. This is what they call the overview page of how this information is presented. And on this overview page, you get several different things. Where DNA relatives list is where a lot of people have a lot of interest, but I don't know that we won't be able to get it done in 15 minutes. Let's just say that. So we'll save that for another day. Forgive the sirens going by. I live in West Philly. It's busy. But part of the reason why this number is so large is because I pay for an additional level on top of what is offered by your basic testing. So again, we'll get into that another day, but I just want to show you what we have here. Now, a lot of people have joked, particularly Brother Shamari on WURD, has joked with me about the Neanderthal ancestry. If you have any European, you likely have Neanderthal variants, and I'll just leave it at that. Down here, we have maternal haplogroup and paternal haplogroup. I won't get into the specifics of this today because we don't have time, but know that we'll come back and we'll deal with that on an additional episode. What I want to get to right now, just to, like I say, begin to have you go along the journey that I went along, we're going to click on View Your Ancestry Composition and see where that leads us. And it's slow. Must be a lot of people online today. Okay, so as you will see, here I am. And here is the listing for all the different things. Now, I will say that I'm recording this episode on Chrome, Google Chrome, and the way that this presents itself on Chrome is a little different than it does in Safari, which I use regularly, but this is how Chrome presents the information. Now, I think this is really cool. So as you will see, I am undeniably Black. And it gives you a breakdown of the different areas of the world, that every place where I do not have a significant percentage is grayed out. So the entire globe is represented on the map that they provide, but you can't see them. You can barely see them at all in here because I don't have roots there. So again, no misconception of me having Native American. I do not. My percentages are concentrated on Africa, Europe, and to a much lesser extent in Asia. And so over here, the great thing about this interactive map, as you can see when I pass my cursor over it, certain things get highlighted. That's because of where it corresponds over here on the percentages. So again, in the overwhelming, not only am I overwhelmingly African, but I'm overwhelmingly Nigerian. So if I click on Nigeria, it blows it up on the screen and you can see the country itself. And again, that I am genetically almost half Nigerian. I happen to know more about the specifics of my Nigerian heritage because of other research I've done. But again, that's a conversation for a different episode, a different day. If you pass your cursor over any of these percentages and click on them, it will open up the opportunity for you to see more information about that particular region. But again, it breaks it down into all different kinds of ways. I will highlight, just for the purpose of this, the Congolese and Angolan. I happen to know that of my 7.6%, the vast majority of that is Angolan. Again, because of what I know, what my research has proven about the area where my family is from and the history related to that region, but that's important. And I will say that the Angolan corresponds with the Spanish and Portuguese, and to a larger extent, all of the rest of the European, which of course is colonizer. And so you see, I'm roughly 30%, just a little less than 30% European, and then a little percentage down here of East Asian and Indigenous American. And again, I appreciate the way that they break this out because it doesn't give you any misconception about where that Asian is from. The Filipino and Austronesian makes a whole lot of sense, again, because of my heritage. What I found interesting was the Indonesian part of this, because I did not expect to see that at all. But when we know about the transatlantic slave trade and how the migration patterns worked, that also makes a lot of sense. I'll stop sharing for a minute just so I can come back and, not there, come back and talk to you all face to face again for a sec so that you understand this journey requires not only a knowledge of the broad countries or regions where your ancestry is from, but also how that translates into the exact composition of who you are. And for the 23andMe side, and I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but that's why I came back instead of having you stare at the screen with the statistics so that I could talk to you. The other thing about this path that 23andMe gives you that other services do not is that they can show you down to the chromosome where those ethnicities are placed inside your genetic makeup. And the reason why that's important is because GEDmatch, which is another service I'll show you in a future episode, gives you regions of chromosomes that you share with people that you share DNA with. And if you can pinpoint that to an ethnicity, if you can pinpoint that to basically, the more you can narrow down where you are related to somebody inside your genetic makeup, you can narrow it down to that common ancestor. You will know beyond a shadow of a doubt, based on how these chromosomes play out, that it is a Black ancestor, a white ancestor, or other, we've got other ethnicities out there. And it can tie you to a region based on how much you know about where your people are from and where that other person where you match DNA it knows that their ancestry is from. And you go through the sources until you can narrow down that information. You may not want to find relatives through this process, and that's perfectly acceptable. So 23andMe gives you more access to the science behind what makes you you. Ancestry connects you to people, connects you to the resources to research a tree and to put names and information on that tree that can help you connect to these other people that you will find out share DNA with you, whether you know how you're related or not. That's another subject for another episode also. But I want to go back to 23andMe before we end this episode and show you what that looks like when you take those regions, those countries that play out in your DNA and see how that works out down to the chromosomal level. So give me a second while I share the screen again. Going back to that same 23andMe view, but we're going back out now to the Ancestry Overview, because it used to be where you could connect to the chromosomal information on that ancestry composition page. No more. Now they've separated it out. And down here, you will see where it says DNA painting, view report. And that is where we're going to go. So I can show you what all of that information looks like in the breakdown specifically for me. So there's my government name. And here is my DNA painting. Now, I got to tell you that one of the surprises that this testing brought me, and you'll see how that worked. Okay, so we'll stay on that for a second. But I came back with a European maternal haplogroup, and I was like, how could that be? When I saw the DNA painting, I said, well, of course, because this strand of my X chromosome is almost entirely European, as you see by the blue colors. That's from my mama. And again, that led me down a path of way more information about my heritage than I ever expected to discover, but it is what it is. Now, I will say, as a matter of analysis, that just because I can identify that this um, strand of X DNA belongs to my mom or came from my mom, in the pairings that you see above that for all of the numbered chromosomes, I cannot guarantee that the bottom one in each set is from my mom, because the way that 23andMe creates this does not guarantee that each painting is exactly corresponding to the way the X's play out. Only because my mother's X is overwhelmingly European does that make me know that that's hers. The rest of these, it's up for grabs, but at least it gives you an idea of how it breaks down. So let's go over here now and show you specifically how you can break it down to the bone gristle, as us old folks say. So if I just put my cursor over Nigerian, you see how much of my overall DNA is Nigerian, which just makes me laugh. Again, didn't expect it. But I now understand, after doing the research or reading up on it more, that many people who have roots in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area have DNA very much like mine. But I also know that that X strand that is mostly purple now in this view is my daddy's, because that means that is my paternal grandmother's X that we're looking at. And yes, that would be overwhelmingly Black. So there are a lot of things that come through that. But yeah, so if I come down here and I go to British and Irish, you will see that my mom's X again lights up at the polar ends of it. But what I just did not expect was that the majority in the middle of it was French and German. More information than I ever expected to have, but it makes sense once you know what I know about my background. So you can do that for all of it. If I go back up to I was telling you about the Angolan and Congolese, that's not necessarily the women, but that is a significant chunk of my mother and my grandmother's X's. But throughout my DNA, that means that these Black men, that these women, were married to or in relationship with, that break down to me, a lot of that carried through over the generations. Okay, so I'm gonna, and again, like I said, you could play with this for everything. The Indonesian is there. That means it's at least one ancestor, because it's on the numbered chromosomes. So that means it goes back to a person. That has played out through the generations, and it's just an honor to be able to see it play out in real time. That's the Spanish and Portuguese. This is the Ghanaian. So hello. And I used to take for granted that really, in looking at these regions, that it was all Ghanaian, but it could legitimately be Liberian as well, which still takes us back to the story of the state of Virginia. And so I'm going to stop sharing again and come back and talk to you face to face. Here we go. So you can get lots of information. It can be incredibly overwhelming, but there are ways to analyze it, and I am determined that I'm going to help you do that. I've talked longer than I intended to in this episode, so I will begin to end it here. But I just want to remind you of a few other things that we've got going on, and so I'll continue to share my screen. If you want to know more about this journey, what this has meant for me, I've written a series about it on Medium. So if you go, as you see up here, to, well, no, you can't see it, to stephanierenee.medium.com. Again, that's stephanierenee.medium.com. Then I have a series called The DNA Journey, and I'll just click on that so you can see the page. And so there you will see the articles that I've written. It started on Facebook, and then I decided to move it to Medium to give it a real forum where you could read much more about how I've been going through this information and writing about what I've discovered and how I feel about it. Because a lot of us have some really difficult things to uncover and analyze and deal with emotionally as you get your results. For more information about my nonprofit organization that is sort of the backbone of how I will continue to share this, then you can go to our home website. It's called Soul Sanctuary, as you see up in the corner of the screen. This is our home website. Our 20th anniversary is next April. And so, we're continuing to use this technology to share more information with you about what it is that we do and how that ties into a soulful community, a global soulful community. The information like this video that I am sharing with you now will go on our YouTube channel. Give me a second, I'll pull that up. And so this is our YouTube channel. And as you see, the trailer for this series is right down here. This will be added to the channel today. So you will get more information. You'll be able to rewatch this however many times you like. And again, leave your comments and questions in the comments section. And I will try to respond to that in the next episode. And just stay in touch, man. This journey is deep, and 23andMe, because it gives so much scientific information, is why I chose to start there. We're going to, kind of dissect it in bits and pieces before we move on to Ancestry, because Ancestry is a whole different animal. But if you are going to spit in a tube, then you should know what to expect when you get those results back. And I'm going to help you do just that. Again, I'm Stephanie Renee, the Vibe Mistress of Soul Sanctuary. Thank you for tuning into this first episode of Blood at the Roots. And we will be back with more information about analyzing those 23andMe results in our next episode real soon.